Hey guys, today we're back with an amazing question. It was sent in by Josh Smith. Josh's question is, how do you position your kayak on the grass flats while fishing the intercoastal waterway in our area? On the grass and throw into the sand, or do you sit in the sand and throw into the grass? I know there are a lot of reasons to pick one over the other, but just some insight on that would be great. Obviously, there are a ton of variables: wind, tide, sun, cloudy. Conditions vary every single day. But let's take some of those conditions out. Pretend it's the middle of the day. There isn't very much wind. Tide is slacked off. Everything's hanging out, and you're out there on the water. It's a bright day, and you can see fantastically. That's going to give you the best idea of what's going on. You're going to be able to see a lot of stuff. When that happens, though, the bait fish disappear because the birds can see them. The mullet will move off the flats to deeper water. They won't be glued to the shoreline or jumping around. And that's when it can get hard to find fish. And that's when understanding how to position the boat is probably the most important. It's important that you understand the area. It's important that you have a good pair of polarized glasses and you can stand up. If you can stand up, you can see the grass and the sand, and then you can position yourself correctly. What we do is we position ourselves on the edge of the grass and sand and try to keep the lure in the strike zone the entire time. Those transition seams, those areas of the transition from grass to sand are where the fish are going to be most of the time. The trout, especially the trout, they're going to lay in the grass. They're going to lay in that grass, and the bait is going to funnel right down the edge of the grass into sand. They're going to ambush it and lay right back down in that grass. The birds can't see them when they lay in the grass. The bottom is cooler than the surface temperature, and they're comfortable. It's easy for them to feed. Now, when you're fishing grass and sand, you're not always going to be able to just cast into the sand or cast into the grass. It really depends on what lure you're using. So if you're using a jig head, I recommend that you focus on the sand. Keep that lure on the edge of the sand. Just like the bait fish, the trout will come out and they'll crush that lure. If you're working a jerk bait, a topwater, or something that's weedless like a fluke, you can throw it in the grass and you can fish the whole grass area. So keep that in mind about the lure. There aren't very many situations where you're going to want to sit in the sand and cast to the grass, just because your lure isn't in the strike zone, but for a very small section. But if you park on the edge of that grass flat, insert picture here, and you cast right down the edge of that transition from grass to sand, your lure is in the strike zone the entire time it is in the water, and that is going to help you catch fish and save more time. You're going to find schools of fish so much quicker by just putting the kayak on the edge of that grass flat. Now, there are huge potholes in the Sound. There are huge potholes in every body of water. And a pothole is an area of sand that is completely covered around it by grass, okay? The fish relate to that stuff a lot of times. You can find some that produce very, very well for years sometimes. It's crazy because the grass stays the same in places and sometimes it doesn't. So get that Google Earth out. Get Google Maps out. Research the areas. Have an idea of where you are going. Know that the water is 3 feet deep where this goes from grass to sand, or that grass is a foot higher than the sand is and there's a drop off there, or vice versa. That stuff is important. Position your kayak on the edge. Make long casts throughout the area. You're going to catch more fish because your lure is in the strike zone for a longer duration of time. Josh, thank you for taking the time to submit the question. It's a great question. It's going to help a ton of people. If you're watching this video and you have a question, there's a link below in the description. You can follow that link. You go to our website. You can submit your question. We ask a few general questions like where you're from and what you fish from. But just to help us better answer your questions. Josh lives right around here in our local area, and he fishes the same waters we do. So it's easy tips, man. And it's going to help a ton of people. So no question is unimportant. Submit it. We have a ton in the queue, and we will get to them eventually. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you haven't seen the other questions and answers, there's a ton of them. They're great. Check them out.